Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, babies in their diapers, welcome to the TIberius Show with your host, TIberius Boy.
That's me, TIberius. Today, we're going to talk about some very awesome stuff. We have a video game about slapping your friends, a book about some troublemakers in school, and we have a totally awesome guest. Today we have the one, the only, the amazing Dan Henk. Dan is a comic artist and runs his own tattoo shop.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, you're welcome. And today, we're going to start off with the video game of the week, and this is going to be a slap.
And now it's time for the video game of the week.
And now it's time for the video game of the week. Today's video game is Slap Battles. This game is made by Tancel. Because it's on Roblox, you are able to play it on PC, Mac, Xbox, and even your cell phone. And it is free! You may remember Tancel from their other game, Joe's Simulator. This is a very interesting game. So first off, you spawn in the game and see a ton of hands that are for sale. You can use these hands to slap people. And you see two teleporters. One is red and the other one is blue. The red one is where everyone is at. You can use the hand that you purchased to slap people around or knock them off the map. If you go to the blue one, then you're only allowed to use the default hand. Then you have a fair 1v1 battle slapping your friend. Remember, not all parents are happy with you slapping your friends, so check with them before playing. Oh, and you can buy access to the radio or super speed with real money, but my dad always says no to that. Oh, and each hand or glove has an ability that are like some are passive and some slows your enemies. And sometimes you'll have to press E to activate like teleportation or turn them into stone. I really like the brick one the most because I can spawn Legos all over the map and get a slap point for each person that steps on one of my Legos.
You don't think that helps you get out some aggression that is not real, but it's like in your fantasy?
Yep. Well, I give slap battles 8 out of 10 stars because I really enjoyed playing with my dad, but after a while, it does get boring because everyone's just slapping each other until someone falls off the map, really.
Mid-State Fire has been providing top-quality fire equipment services for 3 generations to the Central Florida area. Don't wait for an emergency to repair. Call Mid-State Fire today at 407-246-8855. Get your fire extinguishers and emergency lighting for both your home and businesses by visiting www.midstatefire.com. That number again is 407-246-8855.
And now it's time for the book of the week, The Terrible Two. This book is written by Jory John and Mac Barnett. Let me read to the back of the book. Miles Murphy is only known for one thing, and one thing only: pranking. He's the best prankster his school has ever seen. So when he's forced to move to boring Yanni Valley, also known for one thing and one thing only: cows, he'll assume that he'll be the best pranker at his new school too. There's one problem. The school already has a prankster, and he's good. Really good. Well, this is an Arab book and it's worth 4 points. It's rated for 4th grade and 5th month. Now, this book is about a kid named Miles that is known for being a prankster. Well, he's well known for pranking at school, but he has to move, and this new school already has a pranker. This guy was so good at pranking that he got the principal's car on top of the staircase, blocking all the kids from getting to the school. This is crazy. So, Miles has to find out who was the awesome prankster and if they were going to be friends, or worse. After a number of pranks later, I can see that this is not something that my dad would want me to be doing at my school, for sure. But it's always fun to dream about it. Dr. Farron would be so upset. I give The Terrible 2 10 out of 10 stars because I really like the prank, when they put cows all inside the school and everyone was going nuts that they actually canceled school.
Did it sound kind of realistic to you, or did it sound like they were like making up something that wasn't really happening?
It was actually, I mean, it could be pretty real though. It did kind of sound pretty real.
The TIberius Show would like to thank one of their dedicated sponsors, Custom Designs Orlando. These guys are on Mills Avenue and do all sorts of stuff, ranging from photo ID badges, engraved signs, custom braille ADA signs, vinyl lettering to trophies and awards. The cool part about Custom Designs is they can ship products all over the United States. You can reach them at 407-898-0373 and tell them that
TIberius
sent you.
And now it's time for an interview of an interesting person. Today's guest is going to be so much fun. Today we have the one, the only, the amazing Dan Henk. Dan is a tattoo artist and also does comic strips.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And so first off, how are you enjoying being on the show?
I'm enjoying it so far.
Nice. Okay, so I have to ask. It says that you are a tattoo artist. Can you explain to my listeners exactly what that means?
It's probably what a lot of people think it is, and that it's artwork on the skin. You do have a lot of choice in the matter, but it is permanent. So people really need to make sure that they know what they want. Usually what I find is when people make that first decision, kind of breaks the barrier, and then they're fine. But you do need to be serious about it.
Okay, so tattoos are on your body forever, correct?
That's correct.
Well, does it hurt?
Yeah. Although everything good in life hurts.
Okay. So how did you become a tattoo artist? Did you just grab someone and start drawing on them with a Sharpie?
I went to art school. I moved to New York to be a comic artist, and a friend of my brother's saw my artwork, and he insisted on, that I'd make a great tattoo artist, and he'd be more than willing to teach me. So I took him up on the offer, and it's worked out for me. Initially, I was like, I'll just be a tattoo artist until I get a job as a comic artist. But I really like this, and I interviewed a couple comic companies, and they give you very little control, and they pay you very little.
Nice. So how long have you been doing this?
22 years.
Wow. So how did you know that this was the go-to job for you?
It's a whole community you get into. When you get into tattooing, it's not just drawing on the skin. Often it's, you meet people, you can be yourself, you can set your own hours. There's a lot more freedom than there are in a lot of like 9-to-5 restaurant jobs and stuff like that.
Huh. So why was being a tattoo artist so important to you?
Well, I like to do artwork, and I really like to do my artwork, as opposed to what someone tells me to draw. And it's kind of and I like this. I'm a social person, so I like talking to people. and taking their ideas and realizing that for them.
So why do people decide to get a tattoo?
There's a lot of reasons. I think one of the main things is people like to express themselves. You'll notice this, especially in the U.S. as opposed to Europe, is like people are really into being individuals here, and that's a great way to express yourself.
Huh. Now to be clear, this is not for kids, but why is that?
Well, scientists don't think that your brain fully develops until you're basically 26. But you definitely don't want to be 14 and grabbing an image and throwing it on your body, and it turns out to, be not what you want when you're 18 or 25 or, even older. And like I said, they're permanent. So if I got tattooed when I first wanted to get tattooed, I'd be covered in all these band logos. It looked horrible.
Wow. Well, does it take a lot of formal training to become a tattoo artist?
Most people learn as they learn the technique, they learn how to be an artist. And It usually takes about 3 years of apprenticeship with somebody, with an instructor, a mentor standing over you. There, more and more people are going to art school and then they're going straight into tattooing because it does pay you better and allow you a lot more freedom than many other mediums do.
Huh.
That's what I did. I went to art school and then I was like, I need to find a way to make a living. Like I did book covers for a while. I did band CD covers and album covers and stuff. None of that stuff really is consistent work like tattooing is.
Okay. Now it says you have your own tattoo shop. So what is
That's
more
correct.
fun, doing the tattoos or running a tattoo business?
Definitely doing the tattoos.
Okay, cool.
I mainly opened the shop so that people would let me do my own thing. Because the problem is you get people, that will open a tattoo shop and often they aren't even tattoo artists and you basically end up feeding their ego.
Huh. So how many tattoos have you done?
In my life, thousands.
Wow. So what is the best part about being a tattoo artist?
Artwork on the skin. Just the fact that you can be an artist and that you can express yourself.
Well, cool. So are you worried that something could ever go wrong? How could you fix it if you messed up something?
Well, I think you're always worried about that. You definitely don't want to do something. It's really depressing if you do something and people don't like it and you think it was turning out. But even worse, if you don't think it's turning out and they don't think it's turning out. But as time goes by, that happens way less. It's a matter of experience.
Did you ever have someone that you think should not get a tattoo?
Oh, definitely. And there are kind of rules. A lot of people don't follow them these days. It would be more appreciated if they did, but it's like you don't tattoo someone's neck unless they have a certain number of tattoos and they're of a certain age and so on. Like I had someone come to me, he just turned 18 and he wanted a giant tattoo on his neck and he had no tattoos. I said, I won't do it. We call those things job stoppers, which means they prevent you from getting a job. If you don't know what you're going to do yet, you definitely don't want something that will cut you out of a lot of opportunities.
Ah. So what's the hardest part about being a tattoo artist?
Probably the best part and the hardest part of the same thing, which are the customers.
Okay. So it says in your bio that you make comic strips for magazines. That is so cool. So which is more fun, doing the tattoos or comic strips?
Probably the comic strips, to be honest. Because with comic strips, you get to draw it on paper. You don't have any input other than your own creative mind going into it. And, if you make any mistakes, you can erase it.
Exactly.
With tattoos,
so you don't have
can't.
to worry about messing up because it's not permanent.
Exactly.
Unless you do it in Sharpie.
Right. Although you don't do comic strips in Sharpie. Usually what I do is I pencil them all out and and I make it as perfect as I possibly can before I start inking it. And then I go in with the brush and in the ink and I slowly ink it.
So what advice would you give to someone that wanted to become a tattoo artist?
Draw a lot and don't be ambitious. One of the mistakes that everyone makes is whenever you first go in, they're going to turn you down. It's kind of a rite of passage sort of thing. You definitely need to put together a booklet of your artwork to impress them and go consistently. If you go once and they never see you again, they don't take you as being serious.
Okay. So what is your tattoo that you are most proud of?
I don't know that I have a single one that I'm most proud of, but I'm more proud of the ones that are kind of based off my own artwork, especially like a lot of people will look at my paintings and my drawings and say, I want that as a tattoo. And I'll do that. And I really enjoy that process because when you construct the painting or the drawing, you know what you're doing. So then when you make it a tattoo, you have like a leg up on it.
So can you show me one of your tattoos?
That I have personally or that I've done?
That you have.
I have a lot of tattoos. I mean, I'm covered. It's like.
Oh wow!
I also had brain cancer, so my hair has a really weird growth pattern unless I tattooed my head. So I was like,
That's
I'll
really
go ahead
cool
and
though.
Thank you.
So I watched the show Ink Master, and it was crazy. There were so many times that people got mad. And my dad says that was just for TV. Do you ever have someone to deal with people that get mad?
Well, first I'll say with the Ink Master, it's heavily edited. I remember there was another show and it was shot at a studio I was working at, and they were so basically telling fibs about everything they're filming, and splicing stuff and giving scripts to clients and so on. And we were all laughing, and the director leaned over and he said, "There's no such a thing as reality TV. It's true. It's what you're seeing is not what really happens." And the problem is a lot of people will watch like Ink Master, and they'll come into the shop and say, "Well, I saw an Ink Master, so it must be true." No, it's not. That's not reality. I have had people that don't handle the tattoo as well. At this point in my career, I mostly have personal clients. I have people that have their entire body covered by me. But yeah, but it's strange because once you get a lot of tattoos, it kind of changes your whole environment. It changes your whole society. So some people really like how it's helped them evolve as a person.
That makes
But
sense.
the people that are really difficult, I mean, usually you see them right off the bat. And I'm just like, hey, man, I'm not the guy for you. You should go to someone else.
Okay. So when you were a kid, what did you want to do when you grew up? Did you always know that you were going to be a tattoo artist?
Not a tattoo artist. I thought like if you watch old school like rock and rollers, they have little simple tattoos. I thought that's what all tattoos were. So I really wanted to be a comic artist, and I wanted to be a writer, and I couldn't decide which one I wanted to do. Then I saw some of the more advanced comic books like Watchmen and Batman: The Dark Knight and stuff like that. I said that's what I'll do. And it's a lot harder to realize your dreams than you think it is. So you go through a trial and error period, and I ended up tattooing. I thought I'd do it temporarily, but I loved it so much I just stuck with it. And since then I write books, I've done comics, and I've done magazines, and yeah, it's worked out.
Wow. Okay, so while I was going through your website, it said something about being an author. Are these books that kids can read?
They're not for young. I mean, I grew up on army bases, like isolated army bases, and we didn't even have a TV. So I'd go to the library all the time, and I'd check out a huge stack of books, and within a week I'd have them all read. So by fourth grade, I was reading full adult novels. So I would say that the books that I write, I would have enjoyed as a child. I don't know. Some people might find them a little too complicated or a little too wordy, whatever.
Okay. So how did you get the ideas of what you wanted to write about?
Well, I've always liked sci-fi a lot. I've always liked, just strange stuff like the Twilight Zone and the Outer Limits. And, I don't like straight up horror when it's like all like just slasher and like evil people. And I don't like sci-fi when it's like too much opera. I like it when it's an interesting story. So I always want to tell interesting stories, whether it's with my artwork or writing or the two combined.
Okay. So what was your first job that you ever had?
That's a good one. I don't know. I worked at a deli. That was one of my first jobs. It was like a deli that made gyros and stuff like that.
Made gyros? Do you mean those like spinny things?
Yeah.
Were they like metal?
Well, the spindle is metal, and then they usually have lamb or they have chicken on it, and yeah, that's how they make it.
Huh. Okay. So was there anything you learned from that job that helped you be a better tattoo artist?
I think just learning that people depend on you, and learning that you need to do work within a certain amount of time. It
time is
orders your
valuable.
life a little bit. Yeah.
So what is the craziest thing that has happened while you were doing your passion?
What, tattooing?
Yeah, it's the craziest thing that has happened.
I don't know. I have a lot of crazy stories. For a while, when I first started tattooing, I was working at what we call a flash shop in New York City, which is a walk-in street level shop where you get a lot of people that just want simple New York, rather they could get a hat, they could get a coffee cup, or they want to get a tattoo. And those people tend to be the most crazy stories because they're not regular tattoo customers. They're people have no idea what they're expecting, and they just came in on a whim.
Huh. So who helped motivate or inspire you the most in following your dreams?
Well, like I said initially, I thought that tattoos were all simple, like traditional designs. And then some of the people who really opened up the world for me and let me see that there were much more complicated, realistic things out there. Where Aaron Kane was a huge influence, Guy Atchison was a big influence. There were a lot of people. Tom Renshaw was a big influence. They're all like tattoo artists who did something way more realistic than anything I've seen before.
Wow. So what advice would you give someone that wanted to learn how to draw? Like me.
Well, okay, that's good. Yeah, it's good that you're motivated to draw. One thing that really helps is go to drawing from life classes. They're usually free. Like you can go to college, you can just go to a park, whatever. You just have a sketchbook and start drawing stuff. And then at some point, you want to run it by somebody who knows a little bit about artwork. I learned that in art school. The stuff that I was doing that I was like, I didn't even think of that. Like you need to learn perspective and anatomy and stuff like that. But you should really have someone, lean over you. I mean, they can correct something you're doing wrong within like 30 seconds. Whereas if you read a book, you might not get it.
Wow. So if you could go back 10 years and tell yourself something, what would it be?
If I could go back 10 years to tell myself something, that's also a very good question. I don't know, because I've been tattooing for 22 years. And probably after about 10 years, I kind of got the pattern down. Most of what I tell myself would be things I've learned about tattooing. Because as you go along, you evolve as an artist and you learn new tricks and tips and so on. And if I was able to go back, I'd be able to tell myself that, and that would be great.
That makes sense. So what was the biggest mistake you ever made, and how did it change you as a person?
The biggest artistic mistake or mistake I made, period?
Mistake you made, period.
I think you kind of... I learned just to be myself. I mean, you got to be social. You got to be nice to other people. I think you kind of... All right, I got it. I think that probably the best thing is when you're young, especially when you're like 19 or 20, you see the world as very black and white. Like everything is one way or the other way. There's a lot of grays in there. You should be able to disagree with people and stay friends. Like just talk about the issues, talk about whatever you want to do, and listen to other people, because often, even if you think that they're not coming from where you want them to come from, just hear them out.
Okay. So when you're not tattooing people or basically writing, what do you do for fun?
Well, everything I do is, I mean, you could say is kind of work related, but I mean, my girl says I do way too much. But I write books, I write articles for magazines, I do artwork for book covers, I do artwork for magazine covers, I do artwork for album covers. I draw my tattoos. Some of my tattoos, I mean, it'll take me 3 hours to draw one up, and then I write short stories, I write full novels. I do a lot. I do way too much, probably. Plus, I also do MMA. I practice jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai.
Well, do you play video games? And if you do, what's your favorite one?
I don't play video games, and people recommend them to me all the time. Like Dead Space, I believe, is one of them. And so they recommend. They're like, you would love them. I'm like, I'm sure I would love them.
Like, not
I
even
just
on
don't
your
have
phone?
time. No, I don't have the time.
Bro, there's usually tattooing games on your phone.
There probably are, but I tattoo all day. That's another thing. People are like, oh, do you watch all the tattoo shows? I was like, I do that for a living all day, every day. I don't want to go home and watch it.
Shows.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so what's your favorite book to read?
Well, I can list some of my favorite books. I don't have a single one. It's hard to pick just one and
Okay.
go, oh, that trumps everything else. But
Top 3.
I say Dune is really good. Like they just made a movie about it.
Yeah, I
Um,
saw that. I
but
didn't watch it though.
yeah, the well, I watched the new one and the old one. The new one they split into a longer story. Um,
Mm.
I think they did a good job, but it's kind of long and slow. So it might be one of the things that's more appreciated by people that read the book. Um, but I like that a lot. I like a lot of horror. I like The Shining a lot. I like the Thing from Another World a lot.
Cool. Okay, so can you tell me that one story? Remember, this is a kid show, but that one story, well, that you're not supposed to tell me about.
One story I'm not supposed to tell you about.
Nope.
Well, probably some of those movies aren't really kid oriented. Like I know if I
You can
was,
tell me. Just go on.
well, I know some of those kids would have scared, or some of those movies would have scared me as a kid. Um, but I saw Evil Dead 2, which is a great movie. I saw The Shining, which is also a great movie. I saw The Thing from Another World. I saw The Fly. They're all great movies, but they stick with you a little bit when you're a kid.
Okay. Is there anything else you think my listeners should know about you?
I just tell them to check out my stuff. I'm really I've written a new book and I'm really trying to get it out there. It's my third book. It's called The End of the World, and everyone should check it out. And check out my tattoos. Check out everything. I have everything on my website. It's danhenk.com. Is danhenk.com.
Cool. So do you have a website or Facebook for my listeners who want to follow you?
Yeah, well, it used to be Dan Henk on Instagram, and then somebody hacked it, so I restarted it. It's called Dead Guy LLC now. It's DEAD Guy GUY, and then LLC, and then my website is danhenk.com.
Hopefully no one hacks your website.
I think that would be harder.
So what is that one question that you think I forgot to ask you?
One question you forgot to ask me?
Yep.
Maybe what I plan to do in the future? I don't know.
Well, what do you plan to do in the future?
Well, I enjoy tattooing, so obviously I'll keep tattooing, but I'll be a little, I get a little more selective as more and more overwhelms me. So I have a lot of people getting cool stuff. I'm doing like a back piece based off one of my paintings. I'm really enjoying that. And obviously I'll keep writing novels. I'm writing a sequel to the one I have right now. And
Wow.
any novel that I do, I try and do a lot of research on. So the new novel I'm writing is kind of insurrection against an alien invasion. So I got all these military books. Like my dad's retired military. I was asking him for recommendations, and I got all these books on people that have, small scale arms, small communities of people trying to fight a much more powerful person.
Wow. Well, thank you, Dan, for being my special guest. Can you stick around for Math Corners?
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Over 40 years, Lighthouse Central Florida has provided education, independent life skills, and job training to thousands of Central Floridians who live with blindness or any degree of vision loss. Whether it's picking out clothes in the morning or just moving around your community and serving Orange, Seminole, and Osceola counties, contact Lighthouse Central Florida at 407-898-2483 or visit them online at lighthousecfl.org.
Tiberius' favorite subject, it's Math Corners!
Well, thank you, Dan, for helping me with Math Corners. Today, we're going to talk about spheres. This is a really cool part of geometry. So first, we will start with a definition. A sphere is a three-dimensional shape that is round, like a ball. It's similar to a circle, but except It has an X, Y, and then a Z axis because it's in 3D. It's really cool that spheres do not have any edges, and it still has a radius and a diameter like a circle does. But a circle has an area because it's only 2D, but a sphere has a surface area, which is the area covered by its outer surface and its volume. Now, we know a lot about things that look like spheres, marbles, balls, and even planets. So, when you draw a sphere, you have to use shading to know that it's in 3D. Am I correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Is it very hard to draw circles?
It's pretty hard. Yeah. Most people use either a compass or they use what do you call it, like a stencil sort of thing. It's really hard to do it as a tattoo.
Yeah, like in Ink Masters, I'm going back to the show, they would always just like stencils for their things. And I'm like, why do that? Aren't these like pros?
Yeah, but here's the thing. So if you put it on skin as like it's called a stencil, where you put it on skin in like purple, and then you ink over it, and then you touch the skin. When you touch the skin, it actually moves. So when you're like expanding the skin and tattooing it, you want it to look perfect while you leave the skin alone. Like when people walk around down the street, whatever. So you need to put it on them perfect, and then when you tattoo it, you can't just draw it like that. You need to have it before you manipulate the skin.
Okay. So Dan, do you not know all about the spheres? Do you have to draw them a lot when you're tattooing?
I try not to, actually. It's even if here's the problem. If you tattoo a perfect circle, I remember two people came to me as clients. It was a girl and a guy, and they both wanted clocks without hands, because I guess that means eternity and we're connected forever. But so I spent forever doing two perfect circles on them. But the problem is it flows over skin, so it goes over the muscles and the bones and everything. So it doesn't look like a perfect circle, even when it is. See, it's not a great idea for tattooing.
True. Well, thank you so much, Dan, for your help with Math Corners.
No problem.
And now it's time for the heart of a line. As you know, we talk about the qualities of living by the heart of a line, which stands for leadership, integrity, obedience, and nobility. This week, we're going to talk about nobility. For me, I think nobility is remembering we are God's special possessions and acting in a noble way, showing courage and honor. The qualities of nobility are goodness, virtue, honor, generosity, and selflessness. Well, during the holidays, I got a Nintendo Switch, and it was awesome. I could not wait to start playing games with my dad, but a friend came over and said they wanted to play with me. They brought over a number of their friends as they started to touch all my stuff. It's hard not to get upset about all these kids running around my room and pulling out all my toys. My dad told me that, they could play another time, and I had to be a good host to my desk. This is very selfless of him, and I really wanted to play with him, or my dad. So, after a while, I tried to enter a play date, that way I could spend time with my dad. This was very hard to explain why I wanted my friends to go home. I was polite and very generous with the use of my toys, and I even gave some of them when they were leaving. I'm an only child, so this was very hard for me. My dad said it was a good lesson to learn from. So Dan, did you see or use nobility at all this week?
I don't know. I think I do it. I try to do it all the time. I don't know how successful I am, but I think as time goes by, you learn that it really helps when you're nicer with people. So even when it doesn't seem for immediate well-being, it actually is, because it works out. Like if you're nice to people, they tend to be nice to you. And if they're not, then you remove them from your lives and you get someone who is nice to you.
Okay, so of all of the heart of a lion virtues, I'll list them again. Which is your favorite? And the virtues are leadership, integrity, obedience, and nobility.
I would actually say integrity is probably my favorite.
Oh, why?
Because I think that you should try and be yourself. I mean, you can go into like a side thing about what being yourself is and what's the best way to be yourself. But if you're your authentic self, then it helps people to read you better. I really don't like fake people. I don't like people that put up a front because you don't even know where they're coming from.
Okay, well, we should always try and be line strong in everything we do, shouldn't we?
Yeah, I believe you should.
3.
And that's our show, folks. I want to thank the one, the only, the amazing Dan Henk for being on my show. It has been so much fun talking with you today, and I think we learned a lot about tattoos in the comic art form.
I hope you did, and I hope that what people take out of it is it's not you have to delve deeper into anything. If you just look at the surface stuff, you don't understand what's going on. You don't understand the core of it. I think this is everything in life.
Okay. Also, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram at The TIberius Show, and please be sure to visit The TIberius Show on YouTube and subscribe. Also, be sure to listen to us next week on The TIberius Show with your host,